I'm now joined by Muktar Mohammed, CEO of Finance with Muktar, to discuss some of the top stories of the week. Good to have you again on the show.
Thank you.
It's always great to see you, Muktar.
Thanks.
So the first story, we're talking about the Naira. We're always talking about the Naira. I think we'll be talking about the Naira till December. New lows. I mean, how low can it really go before we see a recovery?
I think it should be the lowest we should be now. At least the CBN finally decided to wake up after it crossed the 1,000 Naira mark. I thought immediately it got to the 700, 900. I thought they should have been waking up.
They should have taken action then.
Especially when the new governor came in. He took too much time, despite the acting governor saying so much word without actions. And again, then he came in also, was not telling us a clear policy direction. But when it immediately crosses the 1,000 Naira mark, we started hearing news like, we are going to intervene, we are going to unban some items, and though we've not know what that will imply in the course of the week, because unbanning those items is one thing, because that means you are not telling them to come into the official market. Do you have the liquidity to support it?
That's a good point.
The challenge has always been liquidity, no matter how much you try to play around it. It's not because the Naira is so bad. It's because you don't earn so much effects into the economy.
But if you remove the restriction, which means they don't have to go to the parallel market, obviously that means demand in the parallel market will also drop. Will
you be able to meet the demand in the official market?
But the demand in the official market, therein lies the problem.
That lies the problem, and the demand in the official market is not slimless. You have to get it from you have to wait for 1, 2, 3 weeks. And when it comes to business, I'm not saying 1, 2, 3 months, sometimes up to 2 months.
It could be more. Plus, we have backlogs. From what I understand, there's about, is it $7 billion? $7 billion.
The minister was saying 6.7 billion. The central bank say we are still discussing with stakeholders on to know the rating. Look, there's no magic word to save the Naira. The only magic word that needs is attract liquidity. Pay off the backlog. The backlog, we know what the backlogs are. The backlogs are for the aviation sector. The backlog also are for foreign direct investors and portfolio investors that are not able to repatriate their money back. If you don't pay that backlog, you won't attract the kind of a portfolio investment liquidity you want to attract. So definitely, if you are able to pay that backlog and then partner with the banks. Let's see how you can partner with them. They should be a game changer. We shouldn't be doing things the same all over again.
I think they probably need to partner with more than the banks. I mean, you also have the oil companies and those who earn dollar receipts. But there's a broader issue now. We've had the new central bank confirm he's in place. In terms of his longer-term slant to monetary policy around the exchange rate interest rates, what type of ethos, if you like, do you think he will be leaning towards?
I think he's beginning to say we must streamline it, we must be monetary policy. We must not be intervening in everything. We must not be intervening in rice production. We must not be intervening in theater. You know, the former CBN were involved in rebranding of the National Theater, modification of the National Theater, rice pyramid in Abuja. So many things they were involved in. He said, no, we need to do our core duty, which is to monitor monetary policy and create that enabling environment. Then other sectors of the financial sector can begin to take responsibility for some of this direct intervention rather than the CBN.
And speaking of interventions, the subsidy, the question is, are we still intervening in that market? Malek Kyari, NNPCL group head, has said the subsidy is gone for good. Nigeria will export petrol by next year. This issue can be confusing to the layman. Why is there even a confusion about whether the subsidy has gone or not? Can you explain this to us?
Yes, because international price has gone up. At the time we had the fuel at the current price, the crude oil price was about $70 to $80 per barrel. Now it has moved to 90. We're even heading
so of course, prices should move in line.
Prices will move in line now. But again, Kyari may be telling us that, you know, they did the forward payment. Remember that they said, okay, we did this forward payment, so maybe that's what we are using, or they have a reserve, what they have has not finished, they've not imported.
So they haven't imported any new batches.
Any bad batches.
But how can we, you know, I think transparency is really important. So the question is always, okay, we haven't imported, let's say that is even the explanation that we haven't imported any new batches. How do we know for sure? Let's understand the value chain, the infrastructure, where is it stored, how much is stored, and all of that.
You see, the NNPCL have been showing a lot of controversy right from the inception, whether it's NNPC or NNPC PLC or whatever you call it, NNPC Limited. You remember that the stakeholder, the Petrol and Natural Gas work, that should know better, said, look, as it stands now, subsidy is being paid somehow. And some, if you go around Lagos even, you see that some major petroleum sector, major oil petroleum outlets are no more selling fuel. If you go to those are the major marketers. Sometimes independent marketers are completely non-existent now because they couldn't import because of the FX volatility and the volatility in terms of price. So for me, I think somehow there must be, like you said, transparency. There's one thing that have not helped the oil sector in Nigeria is that there's been lack of transparency, and the current NNPC, whether NNPC Limited, is not doing a good job on that yet.
Okay, let's hope things improve, obviously with the PI and the various governance and structural changes that are ongoing, but we'll be monitoring that story very closely. Another story that's really impacting everywhere, in fact, we had a debate here on Arise on it during the week, is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has faced a new season of escalation. Now it's rivaling global markets, actually, perhaps oil markets too. Markets are really nervous. Israel itself is seeing some issues around its reserves depleting to defend its currency. What are some of the broader implications of this conflict from an economic perspective?
We've seen that. All we need to do is just look at the Russia-Ukraine crisis and see how much it has done. Just only Russia and Ukraine. Now we're going to see a broader picture because once it affects Israel, the Palestine is going to affect the Middle East. What volatility we are expecting is in the oil sector. And that is why U.S. Foreign Secretary today, U.S. Secretary of State is traveling to the Middle East. He's meeting with Jordan. He's going to Saudi Arabia. He's also going to United Arab Emirates, going to Qatar. These are people that he think you could talk to in terms of putting a little bit pressure on Hamas to load them, and why they also talk to Israel. But as it stands now, when we're talking about the escalation of the war, what is going to happen to the economy, majorly is going to be in the oil sector. And you know, when oil price goes up, the global economy shiver. So definitely, I think that's what the US is seeing and beginning to address. It's not that particularly Pakistan or Palestine or Israel are oil producing nations.
Yeah, but they're in a region that is major.
Which major. And again, remember, Iran is still behind the scene. As the Secretary of State for the United States is visiting his allied Iranian foreign ministers, also is touring Lebanon, is touring Iran, and is somehow says that, look, we are still in this, we are in support of this, and you know what that happened. I think the major challenge has to be with oil. Yeah.
Of course, you know, at the top of my show, I showed that Brent, as at Friday, close of play had moved up, close of trading by 4.23%. That's quite a big hike. I guess markets are really sensitive.
That's why Nigerians are saying, there must be subsidy
what's happening? Yeah, I mean, it's all intertwined. So interestingly, the IMF is warning about funding problems for banks that are weak from inflation, high interest rates. Funding problems for weak banks. Help us kind of dissect this message a bit.
I think what IMF should just say is that currency challenges, especially for developing economies, for African economics, they have currency challenges. Their currency is very, very weak at this moment. And so when you look at, give an example for Nigeria, you look at an exchange rate at the time your bank balance sheet was trading at about 370, but now it's trading about 600. So that reduced in terms of your liquidity, in terms of dollars inflow. So what they are trying to say is that the currency weakness in most of these African countries is going to affect some of these banks. And I think that's what they should say. But again, I have a problem with the IMF and the World Bank. They seem to say so much and do nothing.
Okay, what would you have them do? Is it their response to the debt crisis in Africa?
Exactly.
Or what specifically?
Exactly.
So what should they be doing?
They should be thinking of giving African nations debt holiday, not debt cancellation, because as it stands now, debt cancellation seems not to work in Africa, because once you cancel it, it seems like the new administration will come and heap more debt. All you need to look at Nigeria. After Obasanjo came, we have all those debt. Today, at Buhari time, we had it triple. So
do you think the Nigerian government should be looking for debt relief from the Bretton Woods institutions?
They should be, because if you are spending about 90-something% of your budgetary allocation in servicing debt, that means you don't have any money for capital projects.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I wish we could peel that back a bit further, but maybe we'll have a different segment on it, because I know there are two sides to this. There's also the issue of fiscal discipline and prudence, and in terms of how you balance
and it's not happening now. We are seeing more special advisors.
Okay, Muktar, you're really on a roll today. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about on the side, but government expenditure, the size of the public bureaucracy, is in the spotlight because there've always been a lot of announcements. But I guess the proof will be in the pudding, which is what I would come back, that even if you announce so many ministers and technical advisors, the real evidence and the rationale for doing that will be the implementation of policies and how they help move some of these economic plans forward. So in principle, I have no personal problem with the appointment of ministers and advisors and all of that. The issue is, what do we do with those appointments? And I think that's the big question.
What are the salaries of those appointees?
Well, that's the other part. But let's hope that there's some monitoring and prudence around those. The Birkenstock story, Germany. Why is that even important? This IPO, German shoemaker, they're known for comfy shoes. Why is this story so important?
I think because they're expanding into the American market. I think that's why it's becoming news. You know, once you go to the New York Stock Exchange, it becomes news. Remember, this is a company that's been in existence for 240-something years, so it's not a new company. So definitely they are trying to expand their brand, and then they are trying to make sure that they get more funding. Instead of going through the normal banking space, they are now doing IPO. And remember that also, if you look at the European Union, they won't be able to get those funds. Those COVID issues are still there.
Yeah.
And so they are now looking at cheaper means of borrowing and then paying investors. But it has not started well for them.
Yeah, because the stock price took a slide within how many hours of being listed?
Definitely, when you look at that product, they will have a lot of competitors, even within the American space that they are trying to expand to. And even if they are one of the best in Europe, in the EU, they have not really spread so much within EU nations. They stay most in the with Germany as a whole, but some of these nations, they have distributors in all of these nations. Now they are trying to say, okay, we could have a base somewhere whereby we could do our production there. It could reduce the cost of those and create competition within them and the others locals there. But I think in terms of the brand, because of the brand, definitely they have an advantage, but how they are able to use that advantage is something.
Do you wear Birkenstock shoes at all?
I don't even know.
We don't, but I guess a lot of these consumers that may buy the shares can relate with that.
Yeah, they could.
It's obviously a consumer good. Eskom chair, very, very quickly, because I think we're running out of time. South Africa has seen a lot of public sector agencies lose their CEOs. What's going on? I
think this is just internal rivalry between the Minister for Public, Service and the Eskom chairman. I think it just boiled down to wrangling between them, because he told them to submit 3 names for who should be the CEO of Eskom, and he submitted only 1 name, and he said he feels that is the one and only person that is fit for the job. And the minister is saying, look, this is a public enterprise. As the Minister of Public Enterprise said, no, you need to give us 3 names. How about those 3 names? We are going to pick one of them. He said, no, we only have 1 name that is qualified. And I think that has been cost what they have now.
I mean, I guess it's also a case of just following due process to have several candidates and
definitely,
assess them based
but they are
on
seeing
merit.
it like if the government already have a favorite candidate, so they're only pushing one, so the government doesn't have an option than to put, and the government is saying, no, this is the process, it must follow due process.
Yeah, interesting. Eskom, it's going to be big, I wouldn't say big shoes to fill necessarily, but because you could argue around the track record of Eskom, but it has a lot of challenges.
Yeah, you look at Nigeria, because when you look at Eskom, you look at they are trying to make sure they do transmission, distribution, and also I think the generation. Yeah. So they want to split it just like what happened in Nigeria. But when you look at the Nigerian experience, then you say, well, they have a lot of work to do, because it's not looking good here already. The government is beginning to say, look, we may have to answer up generation. Yeah. They are saying that, okay, generation, distribution, the government still wants to be interested. I think that one sector, the South African government, is not ready to let go. So
they're not ready to let go, but they're suffering from some crazy blackouts in that country. We've run out of time. Muktar Mohammed, CEO of Finance with Muktar. Thanks for joining us on the show as always and offering such great insights.
Thank you.